From downtown Scranton, this is Northeast Current. WQPX invites you to join us as we explore public affairs, current events, and arts and culture in northeastern and central Pennsylvania. Now, let's meet today's guests on Northeast Current.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Northeast Current. I'm Charlie Charlesworth, your host. One of my greatest sources of pride is the fact that I am a veteran, and today is Veterans Day. Today my guest is Michael Semian, who is the Commandant of the Gino Merli Veterans Center. Michael, thank you very much for having us.
Good morning.
And happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
My pleasure. Gino Merli Veterans Center is named after an awardee of the Congressional Medal of Honor, Gino Merli.
Correct.
Let's start with a little bit of the history.
Sure.
That's behind this center.
Well, it was first built on the former grounds of the Scranton State Hospital, and it was originally named the Northeast PA Veterans Center. In 1994, it opened up in January, and in 2002, they renamed it the Gino J. Merli Veterans Center in honor of Gino Merli, who, as you mentioned, was a Congressional Medal of Honor awardee. Great, fantastic story on Gino Merli. I was never fortunate to meet him, but people that have met him said he was a great, great humanitarian and a great person to know.
I was here one time when I guess it was his widow or daughter was made a speech here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a fantastic story, and you know, what an honor for a veteran who gave everything he had to this country, and yeah, it's an honor to have it named after him.
His story is amazing. When we have guests coming into the building, they've heard of him, and there is actually a little story that President Truman wrote him a letter, and we have it on display, thanking him for what he did and giving a brief description of what he did during the war, playing dead, and then getting up and actually end up killing 52 enemy soldiers.
Now, there's a distinct difference between the Veterans Administration nursing home and Pennsylvania Veterans Center.
Correct.
Can you give us a general description of what separates the two?
Sure. It's basically of who owns us. We're owned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Department of Military and Veterans Affairs actually operates us. They're located in Fort Indiantown Gap. We are state-owned versus federally owned. Many times people get us confused. They'll come here for appointments, doctor appointments, and we have to tell them, no, it's the VA center down on Wilkes-Barre. They get us confused to that part, but we're one of 6 homes that the state of Pennsylvania owns. The other homes are in 2 in Philadelphia, Altoona, Pittsburgh, and Erie.
Okay. Now, I'm involved with some veterans groups, and one of those is the Project Healing Waters program, which is through actually a Trout Unlimited and a retired colonel from the Army, I believe it was, that started the program. Do you have any veterans programs that are working here with the center that help out as far as?
A program like that, a few of our homes out in the western part of the state are involved with the Healing Waters program. We have not, our particular facility has not gotten involved in that as of yet. We have a lot of different groups that come and volunteer opportunities for our residents. We have a large bike ride every year that's done by a group, Rolling Thunder. We have a lot of, we get about 800 riders on the third Sunday in July for the last 10 years. And they're one of the groups that come here. But there's so many groups. We're very fortunate. We probably have an average of 200 to 250 volunteers that come through our building at any one time throughout the year. Very, very fortunate, very fortunate. The groups are fantastic. Whenever we need something, we have a great volunteer coordinator, and they're always there to help us.
How would you describe your residents that are here? Are they basically past the retirement age, immobile.
Yeah, we've changed so much. Our current length of stay prior to that, our typical resident usually had a stay here maybe 4 to 6 years. That's why some of the stigma of trying to get into Gino Merli is still out there, that people think it takes 2-3 years to get into the building or get admitted. Right now our average length of stay is about a year, year and a half. The residents that are typically coming in here right now, we're getting a wide variety. I have residents as young as in their 40s, and I have residents as old as 103. We have a great mixture. We're not a typical nursing home, where typical nursing home, our size is almost 200 residents, where you would have mostly females and say 180 females and only 20 males. We're just the opposite. We have about 180 males and about 20-25 females. So we have we're a little bit more unique when it comes to that. Typically the residents that are come here come for all different reasons. We have complex medical issues to basic just minor care that we're providing them with their basic bathing, feeding, dressing, safety, medications, things like that.
Now, what percentage of the residents come here, and then do they do a rehab and then leave, or do they stay? And
typically, our residents, we do have a few residents that are able to do that. Our percentage of residents returning back to the community right now is rather low. We just our process of becoming a resident takes some time. So when residents mostly come from hospitals, they might be recovering from a broken hip. Our process takes a few weeks to get a resident admitted into our facility. Generally, they go to another nursing home, and when we have a bed available, we'll call them and ask them if they want to come into our nursing home. But we do have residents that go back into the community. Not a lot, but there are residents, and if they desire after they're here a while and feel that we've helped them, healed them enough that they want to try it back at home, they can go back home. Right now, we're probably looking at maybe about 10 residents a year roughly that actually go back into the community. Right now, we don't have any residents that have any vehicles living here. At one time we did. But as we're getting residents that are being admitted with more complex issues, they've already given up their cars and their driving privileges well before they come to see us. Some of those residents that do go back into the community still may have a car or vehicle at home, and we'll make sure when they do go home, we check their house out, check to make sure they can still drive and ambulate and go through their house and be safe.
I know that in some of the programs, like I mentioned, like Project Healing Waters, a lot of times they're dealing with residents whose part of their problem is loss of cognitive function, and it's not always easy to work with that kind of resident when you're doing that kind of program. Okay, I'm a veteran. I'm getting to an age where I'm living at home and I'm not able to take care of the home or myself. What's the process of becoming a resident of Gino Merli?
There's an application to be filled out. Biggest important piece of the puzzle is making sure you have your DD-214, your discharge papers. A lot of people don't realize too, we also take care of spouses of veterans. Oh. Everyone thinks that we're just strictly a veterans home. We do take a percentage of spouses in here, so we do have some spouses that do live here. Basically, if a spouse has to come in, they have to prove that their spouse was a veteran and have a copy of their DD-214. And there's an application where they could either pick it up here at our nursing home, we could send it to them, or they could actually go online on the website under the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and go under the application part, fill out the application. It gets processed down at Fort Indiantown Gap, and then it's sent to whatever nursing home the person chooses to be in one of the 6 homes.
Now, as a kid growing up and third generation military, years ago they had the places called the Alms House, and a lot of the veterans went to the Alms House for lack of a better place to go. The financial responsibility of the patients, is there any parameters that are set as to their financial capabilities?
Actually, when you look at a typical nursing home of how they get paid and how we get paid, it's totally different. That's where we differ from a lot of nursing homes. Currently, we have a certain daily rate that we charge, and how we get reimbursed is we get a per diem rate from the federal VA on every resident in our facility. A good example, they will give us, say for an example, they'll give us $100 a day for every resident that we have in here. Even though our rate is $300 a day, we'll receive $100 from the federal VA, and then from there, there's a mathematical equation. We see how much the person, the potential resident, has as income coming in, and we give them a monthly maintenance fee. Good example, we had a resident that moved in here a while ago, and they had an income of $5,000 a month. In a typical nursing home, they would take all of that. We looked at it, and after we figured out personal needs allowance, giving the resident a certain amount of money to spend on their own, which is far above what the federal regulations state. I think it's only $45 a month. We're giving that person $450. We're giving them as well, or they're getting to keep out of their income money. They had a community spouse still living in the community, so we gave them money for their spouse, money for their house, their utilities, things like that, some incidentals, and out of all that income, that person ended up paying only $1,400 a month. So we do not impoverish the residents here. You do hear those horror stories. That does happen.
Yeah.
We also do have medical assistance, or what we call our EVER program, and that also gives residents the opportunity that may not have a large income, and we could actually start billing under medical assistance. And under that particular program, they look at their income coming in. Again, they give them personal needs allowance, and we start at, I believe it's $8,000 compared to a typical nursing home, which makes you spend down to $2,500. We start at $8,000. So there are a lot of advantages that we have. Again, we don't impoverish people. We don't take their houses. We don't go after the spouse. There's been so many articles in the paper, well, the nursing homes go after spouses, and it does, occasionally it does happen, and it is a business, and the nursing homes need to charge for their services, but we're totally opposite when it comes to that. We do try to collect some monies that are owed to us, because unless a certain person has at least, I believe it's $100,000 or more in assets, they are not paying the full rate of care. They're getting a rate looking at a mathematical equation of what they could pay us.
I know that with my stepson coming back from Afghanistan, we're talking 4 generations of my family and 5 wars.
Wow.
And from what we've experienced is the VA, the government, the veteran spending is very generous.
Absolutely.
During a war, and immediately after the war ceases, we start seeing the government picking apart at veterans' benefits. Mm-hmm. The VA, is hamstringed with that problem after every war. Mm-hmm. Do you feel the same constraints or the same nitpicking at your budget?
No. Fortunately for us, our budget comes from the state. So compared to the VA, which is a federal budget, we're a state budget. So we don't have a lot of issues. When back in the summertime when the VA was under scrutiny of all these things happening, we didn't have any residents here that go to the local VA have any of those problems, those issues. We were very fortunate. But when it comes to like the federal spending and stuff like that, we've been very fortunate. It hasn't affected our nursing home. And again, we're owned by the state. We get reimbursement from medical assistance as well as private, and then we do get a stipend from the federal VA. But we have not seen any cuts or anything not available to us. They're very generous when we need wheelchairs for our residents, electric wheelchairs as well when they're very expensive. So we've been very fortunate that that type of thing hasn't affected us.
I'm glad that we differentiated between the types of veterans benefits, and very proud of the way Pennsylvania treats its veterans. And the veterans of Pennsylvania are very proud of the service they've done. And I don't know if you know this, but the Second World War, the largest amount of enlistees came from the state of Pennsylvania.
Really?
They've repeated that same philosophy and patriotism in the Korean War and in the Vietnam War. All three wars, the largest number of enlistees into the military came from Pennsylvania.
Did not know that.
And so I'm glad to see that the state of Pennsylvania equally is concerned with its veterans. Now, I'm a private citizen, not necessarily a veteran. I'm saying if I was a private citizen. What can I do to help Gino Merli Veterans Center?
We have a really great volunteer program. We're fortunate that we have a full-time volunteer coordinator. Her name is Dolores Davis, and we have opportunities for people to volunteer anytime, 7 days a week. We're open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We have a really strong group of core volunteers surrounded by a group of volunteers that assist in coming in for different activities and functions. If you are interested in becoming or coming once a week or a couple of hours, our programs are expanding. We have a canteen, we have activities, we have trips that go out that we're always looking for volunteers. So if someone wants to become a volunteer and they have a few hours to spend a week, it could be 1 hour a week. It doesn't have to be 5 or 6 hours. It could be 1 hour a week. Someone that wants to come in and play the piano. We have 5 pianos in our building. Someone can come in and play the piano, come in and play cards. I have a volunteer that comes in every morning to play pinochle. 5 days a week, like clockwork. Winter, spring, summer, fall, snowstorms, comes in and plays pinochle with the residents. So if someone's interested in doing that, I would have them call the nursing home here and ask for Dolores Davis. She's our volunteer coordinator, and she'd be happy to have you fill out an application, tell you the opportunities we have, and try to match up what you have to give and what we have to offer.
I imagine that some people out there in the audience are saying, boy, I'd like to do something, but I don't have the training. I don't know what I could do. Do you have any training on, OJT? Or?
Yeah, depending on what they would like to do and volunteer for. Again, we have tons of opportunities. We have opportunities that if a volunteer wants to work in our canteen, which we have, we do, there's hoagies and pizza and hot dogs in there and sodas and stuff like that we have someone running that 5 days a week. If we had volunteers that could help us run it 7 days, and all that money actually goes back into our resident welfare fund. It doesn't go into our operating, it goes strictly for residents' needs. There are other activities that they could do here. They could help call bingo, they could actually deliver mail, they could do walks with residents, they can go on trips. So if someone is afraid of saying, well, I don't have any specialized training, we'll match you up, whatever skills you have, as long as you have the need. The first thing is you have the desire and the need to come in here and you want to do something, we'll find something for you to do.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Now let's talk a little bit about Veterans Day.
Okay.
We still have soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen that are serving somewhere, some in harm's way, and we want to particularly thank those veterans who are in harm's way, for those that are currently serving. We take a lot of pride in what you're doing, and we thank you very much, and we thank you for your service. We're going to be right back. We're going to break the commercial.
The United States Air Force has a proud history of leading our nation in embracing diversity. We've been reaching new heights for years by understanding it's our individual experiences which make us strong. You can share in this success by seeking opportunities to learn and grow as a member of a diverse team. We are the world's greatest Air Force, not because of what we do, but who we are. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
And we're back. Before we went to break, we were talking about Veterans Day.
Yes.
A lot of people get Veterans Day and Memorial Day mixed up. Now, Memorial Day is the day that we celebrate those who gave their all, their lives, and we're honoring the military dead. Now, not necessarily killed in combat, but had been in combat and then later died. That's Memorial Day. But Veterans Day is a day that we celebrate all veterans, past, present, well, past and present. You got a ton of veterans here.
We do.
How are you going to celebrate Veterans Day?
Well, Veterans Day for us is like Christmas in other homes. It's a big day. It starts off in the morning where all of our residents and our staff who are veterans will receive corsages and to wear them throughout the day, and and also our volunteers. In the morning, all of our residents, we had someone locally make stained glass angels with a little poem. So each of our residents will be receiving this as a gift in the morning with a little poem thanking them for their service, and that an angel is always watching over them. From there, at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be having a wreath laying ceremony, as well as the ROTC from the University of Scranton will be here with their color guard. And we have a short program at 11 o'clock. We have some speakers, local speakers coming in, some veterans from around the area that will be speaking to both the staff and the residents. And then at lunch, we're doing our first ever lunch where we're inviting veterans from the outside, from the local colleges and the ROTC programs to come and have lunch with our residents here. So we have about 35 or 40 people coming from the outside having lunch with our residents. It's actually a nice meal. It's a surf and turf. It's going to be lobster and prime rib for our residents. And then later on in the afternoon, we have live entertainment. Greg Palmer is coming in and will be entertaining our residents and staff in the afternoon. And then in the evening, we're having a movie and pizza. So it's a busy day. Busy day for us.
Sounds that way.
It is.
I know I took part in one several years ago, and made me feel a lot of pride in what we do for our veterans and what you do for our veterans. Now, there are other military and veterans days throughout the year. You know, we talked about the actual Armed Forces Day and the Armed Forces Day Parade. You know, we got to get back to where the Memorial Day Parade or the Armed Forces Day Parade is as big as any other parade in this community. And there was a time when we really celebrated and honored our veterans by having a parade. So that's a challenge for everybody out there this coming year. What's this in June? May?
Yeah. Also the Armed Forces Day Luncheon, which at one time was completely sold out at St. Mary Center. 800 people. This year we were I think they barely had almost 300.
Well,
which, you know, that's something too. I'm sorry, Armed Forces Day is in June. I forget what date the parade is, but I know it's in. I know it's right around Flag Day.
Well, Flag Day is
the 14th.
14th.
Yeah, the 14th.
Yeah, so it's around.
Yeah, but there's a luncheon that there's an Armed Forces Day committee, and they put on a luncheon at St. Mary Center for, oh God only knows, I think 20 years, 25 years at least, and the turnout has been dwindling. At one time they had to turn people away, and now they're looking to make sure that they have people to come in to fill the tables. And we have there's been a lot of people that have donated the tables. They'll buy, like you get a big company that'll buy the table, say PNC Bank, but they don't send their people. They'll say, well, donate and let someone else come. So that's not the same thing. If you're going to buy it, you should go there and support it. But that's doing anything. And we've always had some great speakers. We've had brigadier generals, people from the Pentagon come and speak, and it's a great, you know, it's a luncheon. Color Guard comes in, there's speakers, and it's just such a poor turnout. And we're hoping that throughout the years, and the problem is, you mentioned it before, the young soldiers are not getting involved, or the young people are not getting involved. You have these people who are in their 70s and 80s that have been doing it. They're getting tired. Some of them are passing. They just lost one of their committee members, Joe Severini, this year. He was part of that committee for the time it was started. He died, so now there's a vacancy. Now you're left with a couple of other people that, we have one of them that is in our nursing home now. He's a resident, so he's no longer to help. So it's a shame. It really is a shame. If they don't get the volunteers and they don't get people active in volunteering and supporting it, I could see it stopping eventually. I mean, we're probably looking at a good maybe 10 more years for it still to go on, but at the rate it's going now, you could actually see it dwindling and stopping. It's a shame, and it shouldn't.
It's a national pattern. I mean, veterans groups like the American Legion, the VFW, you know, they're seeing dwindling membership because the young people don't seem to have that desire to you know, to join those organizations, and they are good organizations, and they do help really make sure that the VA and I'm sure the state organizations they double check them and make sure they're taking care of the veterans, and it's organizations like that that have exposed some things in you know, some of those Army hospitals, and you know, so. Another one of my pet peeves, and I'm going to bring it up because, you know, everything that's on the internet is true.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's right.
You know? But you see some companies where they say they're not supporting the veterans. I was just told at Starbucks when I went in, they said, make sure you're here on Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. We're going to give you free beverages. And I know there are restaurants in the area, and Regina will look them up.
Home Depot all the time. I deal with Home Depot now because they give back to veterans. They've been very generous to our facility last year and donating time and material for some landscaping projects. So I did a project at my house this past 2 weeks. I went to Home Depot only because they support veterans.
10% discount to
show your card.
Any veteran. And actually Lowe's does the same 10%.
Do they? Oh, okay.
You know, but I mean, like you, I make all my purchases at Home Depot because
I do that now, yeah.
Because they made the commitment to honor the veterans, and I just happened to find out about them before I found out.
I didn't know that about Lowe's.
About Lowe's, but you got to appreciate the people who appreciate our veterans, and again, Michael, I want to thank you so much for giving us a little idea what goes on here at the Gino Merli Veterans Center. And if you have any questions, our producer is going to put the contact information down there for the Gino Merli Center. And that's about it for this week's show. I want to thank you, and we'll see you next week on Northeast Current.
Michael, whenever you're ready, one big clap. I'm putting that in the bloopers at the end.
Good, thank you.
See you next week on... I almost said fly fishing top to bottom.
That's one thing I've never done, fly fishing. I can never get the, you know, I have the attention span of a gnat. I just like casting out there. I don't know if I could do all that.
But that's the great... Let's finish the show.
Go ahead.
And that's why it was like...
Can I do this? This is like my MRI. It's not done yet?